Good morning. And welcome to Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Church in Pasadena. Welcome to all members and friends and guests here in person and virtually. Neighborhood Church creates and grows an inclusive community of faith connected by love, spirit, and service. My name is May Colcord, and I am a member of your Board of Trustees. Today's service is led by Kia Bordner and Dr. Zenaida Robles. Please take a moment to silence your devices as we begin our service. Today we acknowledge our presence on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples. We honor the Gabrielino Tongva as the traditional caretakers of the lands and waters this campus sits on, the elders who lived here before, the indigenous peoples today, and the generations to come. Thank you for joining us as we continue to prioritize connection over perfection in this hybrid service, which is streamed on YouTube and being recorded for future viewing. Seating is available in the back for those who want to be sure to not appear in the recording. As it seems with everything related to COVID, we have to make changes all the time. Given the new CDC guidelines, the COVID safety team decided that the choir could sing without masks during this special music service. However, the choir decided to stay with masks because of recent exposures, and so the most vulnerable members could participate. The COVID safety team continues to ask all congregants to keep your masks on indoors while masks are optional outdoors. Thank you all for your patience. You'll find information on our website about the many ways to connect with our church community throughout the week, both in person and virtually. Neighborhood Chorus and Neighborhood Bells are looking for new members. Please contact our music director, Dr. Zenaida Robles, for more information. Join us for a social justice history salon next Sunday, August 21st at 4:30 in Ross Chapel and on Zoom. Would you be interested in participating in a bereavement, caregiver, or divorce support group this fall? If so, please contact Ann Grant by August 30th. And as always, you can see the newsletter, Sunday email, or welcome table for more information on these and other activities. So once again, welcome to Neighborhood Church, whoever you are and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. Welcome to this inclusive faith community connected by love, spirit, and service.
I'm too much of myself, discomforting the privileged in the name of wholeness, in the name of holy discomfort, in the name of holy disruption. I'm too much of myself to be complicit. I know better. I lift my light, shake loose the comforted, disrupt the stale status quo of harmful culture. I know better. Disrupt the stale status quo with words, with actions, some mumbled into my breathing, some simple as forgiveness, some hurled as curses and cries, some as complicated as love, some woven as tightly as a shield, some in community, some gentle as a prayer, some all on my own. I'm too much of myself. I bring my sharp edges, my holy anger, my holy love for the interconnected holy wholeness of all. I disrupt the casual oppression, the covert slight, refuse the passive-aggressive deflection, refute the excuse of a racist tradition. No discomfort of the oppressor matters here. Black lives matter here. Indigenous sovereignty matters here. The margins are the center here. I know better. I do better. Sometimes I build small bridges just so between people. Sometimes I draw closer to disconnected circles until they're Venn diagrams, create community, dismantle harmful cultures, allow evolution, provide for the discomforted, shine bright. You know better. Be explicit. Together, we are never too much. Disrupt in the name of holy wholeness. Discomfort in the name of holy wholeness. Bring all of ourselves in the name of holy, of wholeness. Nakute nakute takaman. Long, long ago, therefore it is so. Your congregation is beginning a new chapter, and I am honored to be part of this unfolding of the story. In my call to worship this morning, I read the single voice version of Holy Discomfort, Holy Disruption. There is a call and response version, which I will be weaving into my part of the story for we will disrupt in the name of holy wholeness. We will discomfort in the name of holy wholeness, bringing all of ourselves in the name of holy, of wholeness. For me, for Indigenous peoples, stories are medicine, and we need to be responsible for how we use them. In The Truth About Stories, Cherokee, German, and Greek author and Native American academic Thomas King wrote, "The truth about stories is that's all we are. Stories can be gifted, sold, traded, or stolen." The stories of Hiawatha are not so much stolen as appropriated and twisted. Neither Henry Wadsworth Longfellow nor Samuel Coleridge Taylor were culturally connected to Hiawatha or the Hattawanna. In fact, Longfellow's 1855 The Song of Hiawatha has no connection to the historical Hiawatha, who was a great leader and founder of the Iroquois Confederacy. Sadly, and is as all too common, the fictional character created by non-Indigenous people is all that most know, rather than the truth and historical importance. The truth about stories is that's all we are. Coleridge Taylor's Hiawatha's Wedding Feast only further cemented the story of Hiawatha as the truth in common culture. We will dismantle harmful cultures. We will encourage evolution. We will provide for the discomforted. Stories are medicine. We need to be responsible for how we use them. If these stories are works of fiction that have been used to create a false narrative about Indigenous people, taking the name of one of the most revered ancestors and creating a non-Indigenous version to capitalize on the desire of outsiders to romanticize Indigenous culture, then they are bad medicine, toxic to the real stories, toxic to real people. We will shine bright. We do know better. We will be explicit. Together, we are never too much. Stories share truths, honor ancestors, and shape the future. But these stories by Longfellow and Coleridge Taylor do not share truth, do not honor ancestors. But they did shape the future. I spoke at length with Zenaida about why she wanted to center this false narrative, which feels so much beyond appropriative and so twisted to me. We reached an understanding of how the popularity of the Wedding Feast and Coleridge Taylor so deeply impacted the future of Black musicians. And we discussed my concerns that this was yet another centering of Blackness at the cost of indigeneity. We talked about internalized racism and the struggles of doing this liberation work as allies, as partners, as relations. In the name of holy wholeness, we join in our holy love, in our holy anger, for the harms which carved out your edges. Together, we are never too much. Stories are magic, transforming both teller and listener, and I understand completely how stories told through music transform and create magic. The Wedding Feast created enough magic in its telling to change forever the opportunities for Black musicians. This is a thing in itself. It is complicated and sad that this magic, that this change for the future was so centered on false narratives about Indigenous peoples. How do we separate these two aspects of the story? We lamented that we could not have a deep conversation with Coleridge Taylor, and we're sorry we didn't record our own conversation. But the truth is, there is no way to surgically remove the harm from the good. Since we are all subject to being given a dose of bad medicine with the good, we need to tend to the side effects. We need to take great care of each other as we continue this chapter. We claim people over structures. Our consideration will be overt. Our compassion will be intimate. Stories are created to answer questions and should in themselves create new questions. There are so many new questions, difficult questions, challenging questions. The need here is not to shy away from the core of the questions. We must move into the discomfort. We must engage the disruption. We must embrace the truths we all bring to this work. No discomfort of the oppressor matters here. Black lives matter here. Indigenous sovereignty matters here. The margins are the center here. Once a story is birthed, it exists in the universe forever. These works by non-Indigenous men have proven that axiom. But what do we do with them now? How do we create a new chapter of the story of Hiawatha that will provide good medicine as it lives on after us? This morning, this concert, this conversation, they're the start. Zenaida and I are planning the continuation of the story so we can birth a healing chapter for everyone. Once a story is received, it should inform our choices and our lives. The story we are telling today is not the story of Hiawatha as romanticized by Longfellow or Coleridge Taylor. We are telling the story of how we can honor a Black musician whose work is complicated, who came from a time when they did not know enough to do better. We are telling a story of how a Black musician and an Indigenous teacher can build a small bridge, create a new Venn diagram of communities on a healing path. We are a community of communities, of interconnected circles, drawing each other closer, repairing bridges we have burnt. We know better. We do better. Once a story is felt, the kernel of it stays with us. We hope the kernel of our new chapter of our new story stays with you all. We are sowing the seeds of how to hold the conflicting realities of this work with its impact on both Indigenous and Black cultures and communities. We will disrupt in the name of holy wholeness. We will discomfort in the name of holy wholeness, bringing all of ourselves in the name of holy, of wholeness. Take these stories. They are yours now. And as my grandfather's people say, Kakwexi, now you have a tale. And as Thomas King also said, do with them what you will. Tell them to people, forget them. But don't say in the years to come that you would have lived your life differently if only you had heard this story. You've heard it now.
Giving is a spiritual practice through which we put our values into action. Each Sunday, our congregation dedicates 100% of contributions to a local social justice organization. This week, our gifts go to our own racial justice endowment. Please give generously through our website, text to give, or the QR code or box available at the exit. If you wish to make a payment toward your pledge, make a note in the subject line or use an envelope available at the box outside. Here to tell us about the Racial Justice Endowment is Corinne Grant.
Good morning. In 2020, the Endowed Fund for Racial Justice was established by Clyde Derrick, a member of Neighborhood Church since 1997. An openly gay man, Clyde has long supported racial and LGBTQ equity. In light of the Black Lives Matter movement and an openly racist U.S. president and national climate in 2020, Clyde was compelled to create the NUUC Endowment Fund for Racial Justice to assure that racial justice would always be a component of NUUC's spiritual and social fabric. Excuse me. The fund provides support at Neighborhood Church for social justice work and musical expression on the theme of racial justice. Uses are determined with the involvement of associated music and social justice staff and the neighborhood people of color. The fund's uses may include guest speakers and performers, education programs for all ages, conference sponsorship, acquisition of books, new music or musical instruments, printing, and materials, etc. The fund is being used today to compensate the indigenous performers who are part of Hiawatha's wedding feast that is being performed during the service. Here are testimonials from two donors. This is from Sibel Cabal. This year, I am making a special donation to the Neighborhood Racial Justice Endowment. Not only should our words mirror our values, our actions must embody them as well. Donating money is not the only action we can take, but it is an important one. As a BIPOC, I know that building a more equitable world starts at home, and neighborhood is my spiritual home. Here is where I begin. Where will your actions toward a more just, equitable world begin? Together, we can make bigger strides and have greater impact. Will you join me? This is from James Coombs. We are in a very new era for many members of our congregation and denomination. As a lifelong UU, I am fortunate to have been in spaces where I was welcome, but more commonly, I am in UU spaces where the message is that we should be welcoming to diversity. This is a good message, but one that is a constant reminder that BIPOC individuals are not fully accepted. We need to change these institutional messages. I have chosen to donate to the Neighborhood Racial Justice Endowment because it is important for our larger congregation to know that we are here spiritually, socially, and fiscally. I hope you will join us as we work towards widening the circle of this spiritual community. Thank you for your future donations.
Pujun and Denoi Maganeduk, Netan Nagamakwain and the Shenakas, Mekizin and Dodem, Nagajuanong Nendonjaba, Medekwain Dao. My English name is Liz Chakla, and I'm from Fond du Lac Reservation, and I've been passed SEMA to sing an honor song to recognize those who are living with domestic violence, those who are survivors of any kind of violence, and those who are finding the strength to live outside of domestic violence. Domestic violence doesn't only affect the people who are in that relationship. It also affects the people who live with those people, the people in the community, the larger community, and it impacts our future generations. So it's something that we're all healing from. And there's no shame if you are in a situation where you're experiencing domestic violence, because it's no fault of your own. This is something that was placed in our communities through many years of cultural violence against our people, and it can stop. That's the good news, is that it can stop. We can help each other. We can reach out to each other and help to heal this in our community. So the song I'm going to sing is a song that's called the Strong Woman Song. Even though I know that people of all genders experience domestic violence. But this song is a song that has empowered people for a long time now to find their strength and to stand tall and confident in it. We honor you, we respect you, and we love you. Miguch Bisandawiek.
Good morning. The planning for today's service and music began as a desire to celebrate Black English composer Samuel Coleridge Taylor's 147th birthday, which is tomorrow. That mask is all caught up in my earring. But today's service evolved into so much more. For me, this service became about cultural repair work, resilience, reconciliation, and celebration, as it pertains in particular to the Native American people whose ancestral lands we occupy. Virtually none of my K through 12 education, not my undergraduate or graduate studies, not even my doctoral work in music provided me with any understanding or awareness of Native American music or culture. Neither was I taught anything about the Black English composer whose life and works were so widely known and celebrated in the early 20th century that they inspired a generation of Black American musicians, sowing the seeds of the Harlem Renaissance. My study of this composer led me on my current path to lift up music of marginalized communities, especially Black and Native American people. I was first introduced to Samuel Coleridge Taylor's art songs by arts promoter and longtime friend of mine, John Malveaux. At the time, I was a freshman at Cal State University Long Beach, and like many of my friends and even teachers, I initially thought Coleridge Taylor was African American. It was fascinating to learn about his English nationality and his classical music training at the Royal Academy of Music as a student of Charles Villiers Stanford with such classmates as Gustav Holst and Ralph Vaughan Williams, titan composers of late Romantic English choral music. Coleridge Taylor's sacred choral music became the subject of my 2014 doctoral dissertation. I learned that he lived from 1875 to 1912, only 37 years, and yet he left behind an impressive body of work, including art songs, operas, large orchestral works, chamber music, keyboard works, sacred choral works, and several cantatas, including Hiawatha's Wedding Feast, for which he is best known. The text for Hiawatha's Wedding Feast comes from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's wildly popular 1855 epic poem, The Song of Hiawatha. While there is much to criticize about his blatant appropriation and flagrant alteration of several aspects of Native American culture, Longfellow had made what he believed was a genuine attempt to honor Native American heritage by writing an epic poem based on Henry Schoolcraft's transcription of the authentic orally transmitted stories told by Schoolcraft's wife, Jane, who was an Ojibwe woman. The relationship between the Schoolcrafts and Longfellow is unclear. What is clear is that Longfellow's work was misguided, inaccurate, and problematic to say the least. Yet, it helped to dramatically increase national awareness and preservation of Native American cultures in the United States. The poem contains references to Native American artifacts, activities, and legends. Because I learned about Coleridge Taylor's studying of Hiawatha's Wedding Feast, I was inspired to learn more about the real history and culture of Native American artists, writers, and spiritual leaders, like my friend Kia Bordner. I was compelled to reach out to culture bearers and engage in challenging conversations with brilliant people like Kia, from whom you heard earlier. I've been greatly inspired having greatly been inspired by his reading of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's epic poem, The Song of Hiawatha, even naming his son Hiawatha. Coleridge Taylor decided to set the words to music in his choral work, Hiawatha's Wedding Feast. Imagine that the story of Hiawatha is like the story of Harry Potter, or Lord of the Rings, or Star Wars. Once he discovered this story, he became a lifelong mega fan. He completed his choral orchestral masterwork based on this story in May of 1898. He was only 23. And it was published before the first performance was even given by the Novello Publishing Company. Great publicity preceded the premiere of Hiawatha's Wedding Feast. The story goes that Sir Arthur Sullivan of Gilbert and Sullivan fame, he told Coleridge Taylor, "I'm always an ill man now, my boy, but I'm coming to hear your music tonight, even if I have to be carried." The premiere took place on November 11th, 1898 at the Royal College of Music under the baton of his teacher, Sir Charles Villiers Stanford, due to Coleridge Taylor's shyness. The story goes that he was so shy, his teacher, Stanford, had to leave the stage to seek him out in order to coax him up to receive the audience's applause. Acclaimed 19th century composer Sir Hubert Parry described the event as one of the most remarkable events in modern English musical history. The success of the work was immediate and international. By 1904, Hiawatha's Wedding Feast had received 200 performances in England alone. Hiawatha's Wedding Feast also received many hundreds of performances in the US, Canada, South Africa, and New Zealand, all the settler colonial countries. The tenor aria, On Away, Awake Beloved, was part of most tenors' repertoires for the next 50 years. Hiawatha's Wedding Feast was performed so frequently that it rivaled Handel's Messiah and Mendelssohn's Elijah in popularity. Now, it's critical to continue to remember that Hiawatha's Wedding Feast is Coleridge Taylor's own interpretation of a 19th century white American man's poetic fiction. And as such, it is in no way representative of actual Native American traditions or music. Nor did Coleridge Taylor intend for it to be so. I speculate that at the young age of 23, when he composed it and living in a time when unabashed cultural appropriation was the way of the world, it's likely that this young hotshot composer, Hiawatha superfan, was essentially ignorant of the actual people from whom the text for his music came. To me, it's tragic that Coleridge Taylor faded so far into obscurity after he died at the age of 37, with his problematic masterwork, Hiawatha's Wedding Feast, as his only claim to fame. It's such a shining example of his command of musical form, texture, harmony, and orchestration, which resulted in overnight fame and respect among his colleagues that few men of color could have hoped to enjoy in the early 20th century. And also because of his incredible success in a field dominated by white males at a time when racism in America was peaking, Coleridge Taylor's influence on Black artists and intellectuals was powerful and far-reaching. Hiawatha's Wedding Feast was last performed at Carnegie Hall in 1915 as part of a concert of Negro music, conducted by renowned conductor-composer J. Rosamond Johnson, the same who composed Lift Every Voice and Sing. I'm honored to share that our very own neighborhood chorus will have an opportunity to sing Hiawatha's Wedding Feast with orchestra at Carnegie Hall for the first time in over 100 years next spring. Our performance of Hiawatha's Wedding Feast at Carnegie Hall is part of a concert that will include world premieres of music by living Native American composers, led by several different conductors, including yours truly. And with our performance in March 2023, we will shine a light on Coleridge Taylor while again honoring the artistry and experiences of members of the indigenous diaspora, helping to reverse our country's heinous attempted erasure of marginalized peoples. So in no way are we ignoring or excusing the appropriative origins of Coleridge Taylor's music. Confronting the uncomfortable truth about music that I love has been difficult and exhausting. It requires courage, humility, and a commitment to uplift and build relationships with people who have been dishonored and systemically erased by this work of art. If it becomes evident that there is no way for me to perform this music equitably without dishonoring my indigenous siblings, I would be heartbroken, and I would have to stop performing it. I am learning that the same goes for material in our hymnals. There are hymns and readings in our hymnals which are inspired by Native American wisdom, but whose origins are not verifiable, and whose inclusion in our hymnals and as part of our worship remain questionable. When living culture bearers like Kia tell you to stop and listen, you stop and listen. That's what we're doing today. So, in studying and performing Hiawatha's Wedding Feast, we commit to continue engaging in complex conversations about race and cultural appropriation. We commit to uplifting, honoring, and listening to Native American culture bearers. We commit to telling the truth, and we strive for reconciliation in our ongoing work for social justice. And we truly celebrate, this is a celebration, the friendships, the collaborations, the inspiration, and the joy that continue to result from this life-giving work. This is only the beginning. So we celebrate by presenting Hiawatha's Wedding Feast, a song that is literally about a party, a pleasant snapshot in a fictional and problematic interpretation of the story of Hiawatha and Minnehaha, two real legendary Native American heroes of the Ojibwe and Dakota nations.
so much. It was wonderful to hear from Kia Bordner, and I look forward to hopefully having more conversations with her. Really wonderful to have you all here. I know you've worked really hard, and Zenaita's high school students are here with us, so thank you.
And my daughter.
And Zenaita's daughter is here, yes? And now you probably understand why I love so much working with Dr. Robles, how much I learn from her, how grounded she is in her values, and how open she is in her curiosity. So thank you. Our benediction is from the activist Sherry Mitchell, whose Penobscot name is Wena Hamu Kwaset. When we connect with our ancestors and put their wisdom into action, we are evolving our collective consciousness. We are transporting the ancient truths of our collective past and birthing them into the future. What we create out of those truths extends the wisdom of all those who have gone before us, and it provides a guide for all those who will follow. Amen. Go in peace.
Haven't died.